This heart of a lion, this soul of a titan. You won't break me, you won't break me. This force, you can't fight it. This thunder and lightning. You won't break me, you won't break me.
Welcome to the live arrivals of Turn the Tide on Plastic at the finish line in Itajai to bring leg 7 to a close for Dee Kafari and her team. I've got Conrad Coleman with me as always, and well, the breeze has been blowing quite well. So far for Turn the Tide on Plastic, their approach has been good, it's been efficient. In the last 20 minutes or so, they had a little bit of a difficult transition as the breeze swung around, but Conrad, give us the latest.
Well, now they've got, I'm watching it live with you now. Just 15 seconds ago, when we hit that titles, they were going at 6 knots directly towards the line, upwind with masthead code 0. But for our live audience right now, this is proof that it is live right now. We are watching these images and we can see their course change as it happens. Basically, they're on port tack, just ghosting along in the merest breath of a wind in a notoriously tricky place to finish the Volvo Ocean Race.
And with the wind range that they're in right now, 1 or 2 extra knots, a little bit of a gust, a puff, and suddenly their boat speed shoots up, and also the angle as well. So we're in this funny situation here where we might be 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes away from the line for Turn the Tide on Plastic. We might be a lot longer, but it's certainly looking like it's going to be a nice procession. There's boats out on the water ready to welcome them in. We've got our rib out there filming. We've got the helicopter as well. And I can tell you there's a crowd forming on the pontoons in the harbour in Itajai as well. And this is a very big moment for Turn the Tide on Plastic. It's a big moment for any of the teams to finish this leg. I mean, we've said it time and time again, but leg 7 has been physically and emotionally, with everything that's happened out on the water, it's been just a huge mountain for the crews to climb. But for Turn the Tide on Plastic, just talking about the race through their perspective, these are some big points on the board.
It is, absolutely. This is a team that has been last or second to last 4 times during the course of this race, but that's not really representative of the progression that we here in Alicante have seen with this team. That absolutely, they started the race as the rookies, that they had relatively little offshore experience on board, obviously taking out the leadership trust of Brian Thompson, Liz Wardley, and indeed Dee Kafari, multiple-time skipper, and the only female to have sailed solo non-stop around the world in both directions, which for me is just absolutely incredible. And so I think that we've seen a massive progression, that just 24 hours before the arrival in Auckland, they were in 3rd place. And the 2 red boats slipped by. That mark has, that result has clearly left some traces there, because they were looking over their shoulder, just as close as yesterday. Afraid that Mafre may still come back at them. But here they are, just meters away from the finish line, and they have got this one sewn up.
And it was disappointing, wasn't it, to think that they were worried maybe about the red boat. Obviously, Mafre, really cut some mustard in this fleet. They've really set the standard for everybody else. But Turn the Tide on Plastic have pulled out a lot of miles over the Spanish team, and not least in the last few days. They've actually been extending. And as you've been saying, it would be easy if you just joined the race at this moment and you just went and took a look at the results sheet to say, oh, Turn the Tide on Plastic, now they've arrived. Not the case at all.
Not the case at all. And Dee Kafari is the first person to say, we don't want your sympathy. We are here to compete. And it's beautiful there. Just in the light, you can see Turn the Tide on Plastic and Clean Seas lit up in the spotlight as they wind down the last few hundred meters towards the finish line. So really beautiful. This is the message that they're carrying around the world, that they are advancing the state of scientific progress in terms of tracking the amount of microplastics that are in the ocean, that they've got a scoop that's sucking up little particles as they go around the world, and that's really helping to understand the science behind how these plastics propagate within the water column. So really valuable. And yet they're not just for that. They're here to compete. They have progressed as a team. And I think that we're going to be seeing a pretty chirpy Di Cafari here at the finish line with the interview afterwards. They have been through so much in this league, and they have developed as a team, and I think they can be very, very proud of it.
Well, we've said this for all the boats that come in. Leg 7 as an accomplishment, just to be out in the water and be sailing through some of the conditions that these sailors have been going through. I mean, it's beyond anything that the everyday sailor can empathise with, really. I mean, when we talk about some of the conditions that we've seen, Bauer Becking, when they finished and won the leg, he said that pretty much, apart from just that park up off the line that we're seeing now with Turn the Tide on Plastic, that Team Brunel experienced, he was saying it's been 25 to 60 knots all the way through the leg. Relentless is the word. That is exactly what it's been.
Absolutely. That it is really hard to put into words just how rough it can be down there. I've had the extreme privilege of sailing in the Southern Ocean myself, and it is breathtaking with its sort of raw ferocity, with its beauty, with the fact that you pass through these waters where you are, aside from your compatriots on the other boats, the most isolated people on the planet. And I know that we keep coming back to that because it sounds dramatic, but the reality is when you're out there on a little carbon cockle shell in the middle of the Pacific, every single maneuver, every single element of life on board takes on a much greater importance. And so to have grown as sailors, to have been able to survive and thrive in those conditions. We saw Turn the Tide on Plastic come through in a very respectable position in Cape Horn, but they were also jibing out with the leaders in many cases and helping to put the pressure on the leaders as well. And so jibing in 45 knots of wind with the fro and 3 reefs, they were hammering out there.
We're just getting a little bit of audio from the boat, and we can see Frederico Pinarella de Mello, the Portuguese sailor on board, wearing what looks to be a football t-shirt. I think that says sailor in Portuguese. My Portuguese doesn't let me down, but we're getting some words now off the boat. I think I can hear Liz Wardley, Di Cafari, Brian Thompson, the navigator, just coming up and looking over to see where the line is. They're going to be approaching this in darkness, but with all the navigational aids, they're working out. Now D signalling, they're going to tack over. This is one of the sort of double-edged swords. Everyone comes out on the water to greet you and welcome you in, but sometimes they can get in the way as well.
They can definitely get in the way, and the wash of the boats around you can actually be a complicating element as well. So here, very, very tricky to do a tack where you go head to wind with such a big sail and such light wind. It is brutal because you have to wait. You can't start your turn. You can't go head to wind just yet because you need to wait for that big sail to be filled up initially. Now you can start the turn, but the speed is bleeding off. They've done a really nice job there getting that clue of the sail up and around the forestay so quickly and efficiently and sheeted on the new side. So top job. That is actually a very complicated maneuver in the light conditions, but they've been sailing in a high pressure zone for almost a week now after the ferocity of the Southern Ocean, and so clearly they've got this maneuver dialed.
And we're really making them work for those last few miles, aren't we? I mean, 10, 15, 20 minutes ago, certainly, they were sailing in some rather nice breeze. We've had a full transition, a full change in the wind direction. It did look like it was going to be a reach all the way in, but now the breeze is going from the city to where Turn the Tide on Plastic are, and we're seeing a familiar approach from what we saw from the other teams as well.
That's right. It's been a bit of a drift off. It was exciting with Brunel and Dongfeng race team. We were uncertain as to who could have used these fluky conditions to their advantage. Since then, we've seen Team Axel Nobel. They obviously had a big buffer ahead and behind, and so there was no real pressure here. It's the same case that we've got with Turn the Tide on Plastic. And so these sailors are really having to pit their wits against these tricky conditions and fight for every single meter all the way to the line. As you can see there, that angle on the tracker that we just saw was pretty brutal. For the sailors out there that are familiar with the tacking angles of these kind of boats, may well have been scratching their head a little bit. Part of that was a wind shift, but then also because the boat is sailing at the same speed as the wind, thanks to this massive masthead code 0 sail, then your angles are terrible because the apparent wind is such a massive component of your overall wind speed that you just need to keep bearing away and bearing away and bearing away, particularly with the sail. And so even though the angles are bad, they can't do anything else if they want to move at all.
Well, we are waiting for Turn the Tide on Plastic to overcome this light spot of wind, just a mile, 2 miles off from the line. While we've got a little bit of a time, let's just take a chance to take a look at leg 7 through the eyes of a team that have really come of age at this point in the Volvo Ocean Race.
Great first 48 hours, got ourselves in the lead. We've now got the whole fleet breathing down our necks. But we're sending it into the south. It isn't getting colder yet, but it will do. The confidence in their driving, managing the waves, the cold. It's like having a different team on board. So yeah, seeing them grow is awesome.
Out there it's pretty wild at the moment. It's sort of about 30, 35 knots of wind. The boat's doing 30, 35 knots down the wave, but it's fun at the same time.
It is pretty spectacular downwind sailing.
I mean, it's pretty bumpy, it's pretty wet, it's pretty windy, but I mean, this is what we're here for, this is what we love doing.
We've been pushing pretty hard for the last kind of 2-3 days. I'm not quite sure how many days it's been.
When you see those guys close by, it's really nice, and it gives you another kick of energy to keep going.
It's jump jump! Jump jump jump!
We've got good drivers and we've got good brake speed and we're confident in what we do. And we've made some good decisions. We just rounded Cape Horn, and for the first timers it was amazing because it's very rare that you get to in daylight that close with that good visibility, and actually it was quite emotional. It was really nice to see them really chuffed that they'd conquered the Southern Ocean, and I actually shed a tear. It was a little proud moment.
Less than time we made it!
Bit gutted at the moment. We have had a brilliant Southern Ocean load, and now we've just got a rig issue.
And today, on Easter Sunday, we've just resurrected a dead mast.
We were doing 8 knots, they were doing 4.7.
Take that, Matthew.
We were twice as fast as them.
Leg 7 through the eyes of Di Cafari's team, Turn the Tide on Plastic. And Conrad, I just want to pick up on something she said there. This leg, double points into the Southern Ocean, but for the second time. And Di Cafari said, this feels like a new crew. They really are not rookies in any sense.
No, absolutely not. This is a team that's got a lot of Olympic experience, and you've got a lot of intro experience on one side, so really high-level racing, dinghy experience, and then you've got people like Lucas Chapman, who's done a lot of the Sydney Hobart races, for example, but so very little of the longer offshore stuff, and then people like Bianca Cook, who's done tens of thousands of miles, more than most people will do ever in their lifetime, relatively little on the racing side. And so you had all of this mix sort of come together, and then just like to contrast the 2 Southern Ocean legs that we saw. In leg 3, there was lots of wide eyes. It was the first time down the south. It was the first time jibing in 30, 40 knots. And what comes to mind is the big Chinese jibe that they did, or the big crash jibe, and which I used in my compilation the other day when we were talking about it. Really dramatic, really scary moment when the boat spins out of control and ends up essentially capsized in the middle of nowhere. We didn't see that this time, and in that compilation video that we just showed you, it was not just sailors going out there and saying, "Oh, this is the Southern Ocean. This is a little bit wild and scary." We saw it from Bianca. We saw it from Lucas. They were saying, "All right, here we go. This is what we're here for. This is what we love." And that's the kind of evolution we've been seeing in this team.
Well, we're waiting for Turn the Tide on Plastic to come across the line here. This last sort of mile is proving pretty tricky. As you're saying, the apparent wind and all the little shifts, it's not helping. I mean, look at the acute angle as they've come through the tack. But that does give us an opportunity here to highlight a couple of the sailors. Let's just shine the spotlight on some people that deserve it. First of all, Liz Wardley. I mean, you talk about the brains trust, you talk about some of the people that are mentoring the younger, less experienced people coming into the boat. Liz Wardley, and certainly everything that we've seen from her in this leg and earlier, she just seems indestructible and indispensable.
Yes, absolutely. Liz Wardley's nickname in the sailing community is Chook, and who knows? Maybe it's because she was known as the barefoot bellwoman when she did the Volvo Ocean Race for the first time back in 2001, 2002 on Amer Sports 2. So she was known already then to be somebody a little bit special, a little bit different in the sense that she was known for going barefoot even in the most wild conditions. But what is really important is her role as the onboard boat captain, and we've seen this with Nettie, who was able to be thrown up the rig in many wild conditions to work on the mast track and then coordinate the repair of the mainsail. We've seen this with Abby Ehler, who has this role on board Brunel. But Liz is really jack of all trades, or Jacqueline of all trades. And with all of the photos that we've seen from Sam Greenfield has been her in the thick of it, fixing, and really the fact that this team is here today is largely in thanks to Liz Wardley, because she was the one that spotted the problem with the rig. She was at the helm, and not only driving the boat to its polars and optimizing the performance, checking each individual wave, as any helmsperson was doing, she was looking at the mast, and she was the one that spotted the fact that the cables were not sitting quite right. And so she was the one that called for them to drop all of the sails, save the rig, and then together they were able to come up with the solution for how to get that spreader back in one piece.
Well, celebrations at the moment on Turn the Tide on Plastic. The flags come out, but they haven't crossed the finish line yet. There is an armada of boats following them right now, not least our camera rig, helicopters, and at the finish line, more people waiting as well as on the shore as well. But this is the crew, 10 strong, who have done battle with leg 7 and come out in very good shape indeed. Now, one other person, you were mentioning Liz Wardley, and I think everybody, inescapable how strong an impression she's put on this team and how much she's setting the groundwork for the young sailors to try and sort of emulate that standard. Let's talk a little bit about Brian Thompson as well. I mean, he was due to join the team. He had a little bit of an injury, a broken leg, couldn't come on for those first few legs. He jumps on for this one. And if you're a young sailor and you've got Brian Thompson on board, he's got to be at the top of just about everybody's list for a navigator that you would pick.
Absolutely. I am in awe of his experience, that he has done everything under the sun, from setting records, solo, double, multi-hull, mono-hull, offshore, inshore, speed records, ocean crushing, circumnavigations. He is one of the world's most superlative and varied talents in sailing. It is absolutely impressive. He's known as Mr. Speed Record because I think that the WSSRC, or the World Sailing Speed Council, basically the organization that rubber stamps all of the records offshore, for the past 30 years they've seen Brian Thompson walking through their door all the time, and it is amazing. He's one of the most capped sailors, and so he has done this race before. He was part of the Avon Ambro 1 team that so dominated the 2005-2006 edition of the race, and also the fact that you've got somebody with a lot of multi-hull experience also comes into play. And the reason for that is that, particularly offshore, multi-hulls are trying to kill you at all times. That they're trying to go upside down, and indeed they are more stable upside down than they are the right way up. And so it's a constant balance of dosing the amount of sail area you have up, the amount of power, the amount of risk. You need to have a really delicate sense for the team, whether they're concentrated, whether you need to back off for the team, whether you need to back off for the sea state. And so to be able to bring that wealth of experience into a monohull, and these Volvo Ocean 65s are the antithesis of a 60-foot racing trimaran. You know, they're basically indestructible. You can push them super hard. When they fall over, they stand back up again. Everything's okay. But to have that degree of finesse that we've seen from Brian Thompson, and be able to bring that experience in a sort of much safer platform, I'm sure has really brought a lot of experience to these younger crew members.
Well, at the moment, Turn the Tide on Plastic are really being made to work for that final mile, aren't they? The breeze earlier on was helping them in, it was reaching them in, and the miles ticking down very fast indeed. 45 minutes ago, an hour, maybe they were doing 11, 10, 12 knots towards the finish line. Now they're barely doing 2 or 3, and every single tack, the speed drops before it is slowly built back on again. We've got our helicopter in the sky. Obviously, as you can see, it is nighttime in Itajai, but that has not stopped the crowds from coming out. This is on the pontoon at the moment. Everybody waiting patiently for Dee Caffari and her crew to arrive.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning now, so this is a big commitment here on the part of the locals.
Big commitment indeed, and it will be a warm welcome for Turn the Tide on Plastic. It's been a warm welcome, and it's been a relief for everybody at the end of leg 7 when all our teams have arrived safely. We'll take the time just to give you a brief update as to the 2 teams that have been forced to retire. Vestas 11th Hour Racing had their dismantlement, and then they're in the Falklands making preparations to continue to push forward and rejoin the race in Itajai. And then Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, after their man overboard and sadly the loss of John Fisher during the Southern Ocean, they made it safely to the Chilean coast after retiring from racing. But the good news is they're planning to come back in as well. But right now, the eyes are on Turn the Tide on Plastic. The young 50-50 male-female split crew that has come into the Volvo Ocean race with a very clear, very strong environmental message, but also high racing ambitions as well. It would have been very easy for this team just to decide, well, we've got the billboard on the side of the boat, we're doing good just from the off. But that's not what they're about at all. And Dee's a difficult person to read in that sense, because at one point she's bubbling with pride all the time about how far her team have come, but you can always tell that she wants a little bit more from herself and from the boat. That's quite a potent mix for the skipper.
It is. It's something that makes her so valuable as a mentor on board for these young people, because she's creating this sort of really healthy environment on board, really sort of quite nurturing, and yet she's always looking for a little bit more from them, a little bit more from her, and from the campaign and the team overall. And one thing that really touched me every time that we spoke with Dee during the course of this leg was just how proud she was, how much she's, as we saw in that quote in the last video, how much she's seen that this is not the same team that she started the race with, that she was in tears, literally, as they rounded Cape Horn, when she brought 6 new Cape Horners into the world, and getting her first time as around Cape Horn and doing so safely. There's so much responsibility on her shoulders to keep them safe and to keep them fast. And it's that constant balance that is really, frankly, on her shoulders. She's got some help from Liz, she's got some help from Brian, but that responsibility is on her shoulders alone. And so I think I think that's why this team has so many fans around the world, not only because they're attracted by the idea, supported by the Mirapuri Foundation and the principle of clean seas, but really the fact that everybody can sort of see themselves in this team. That when you look at all of the other teams, they're sort of, at least until this edition of the race, they're full of sort of burly, bearded, sunburned, gnarly guys that sort of chuckle when they're getting sprayed in the face by 40-knot winds. And you go, they're lunatics. I can't associate myself with them. But when you look at this team, they've got lots of fresh faces, and you've got Dee, who's sort of very open and about the emotional responsibility of looking after this team. And so this is what makes this team so special and approachable.
Well, Francesca Klapčić on the left-hand side of your picture at the moment, the Italian Olympian, twice Olympian in 2 classes, radial and 49er FX, 49er world champion in 2015, and certainly from what we see, quite a lively member of the team. What seems to be one of those people that never quite gets knocked down, smile on the face, always got a little bit of energy to throw into the mix as well. And there on the grinder in the middle of the boat, just helping the teams through those tacks.
Wait, I'd just like to interrupt you here for 1 second. This is something that's quite special about this boat. We've got Elodie Metro, Francesca Klapčić, and Bianca Cook here in shot. And then as we turn around a little bit more, we'll see Dee Caffari at the helm. There's 4 women on a Volvo Ocean Racing boat. That has never been seen before in recent history outside of SCA. But now we've got this opportunity to sort of share and mix and bring new blood into the sport, but also to have that mix with the older sort of veterans like Brian. And this is something that's so unique in offshore racing, and it's unique to this race, and it's unique to this boat. Just sorry, it was a beautiful image there.
No, absolutely, and I think Dee Caffari has always been somewhat. It seems to me that a lot of the skippers haven't been that supportive of the new rule about the mixed crew. You have to take 7 from one sex and 2 from the other. But Dee Caffari's always been, I like the idea of a mixed, I like the idea of going 50-50, I like the idea of just picking the best sailors, I like the idea of just looking at a squad and saying male or female, if you can pull hard, if you can smile when the chips are down and all the rest of it. And I think in that crew, what better opportunity to come into the Volvo Ocean Race or ocean racing in general and have Brian Thompson, Liz Wardley, and Dee Caffari as your brains trust. I mean, that certainly is a very strong way to go. And here's somebody that's doing pretty well in that arena as well. Henry Bombi just loading up one of the primary winches at the moment.
The runner winch, I think. They're preparing to tack.
And they are going to turn the boat through the tack. We have been watching them tacking far more than they would like. If you can cast your mind all the way back to Team Brunel winning this leg, it was downwind. It was downwind for Dongfeng Race Team. Team Axonabel as well. Now Turn the Tide on Plastic are being forced to tack. Zigzag, yes, but it's upwind all the way to the finish line. But there's many people out in the water, and there's many of you guys watching online as well. A lot of strong enthusiasm coming in, and congratulations as well. Just to have a little bit of a time, just to read a couple of your thoughts out. Boomer Depp here, congratulations to Turn the Tide on Plastic. Dee and crew, Liz Wardley is indeed indispensable as a boat captain. Driving, keeping our eye on the boat, rig and crew, a job well done. I don't think you will get anybody to disagree with you on that front. There is a lot of people here that have been standing out, and these are the spectators and the fans welcoming them in as they get themselves to the dock. They've got to come through the line, they've got to navigate themselves up the river, and then straight away into the press and into the bright lights. Now goes the next tack. It looks like there's a little bit more breeze there, certainly quite a fast turn.
That's right, a lot more inertia in the boat there. We can see the breeze building, and indeed just before they tacked, the sail was a little bit more eased. Not quite strapped in hard on the masthead code 0. So that should give them a lot of confidence going to the line. That may well be the last one, or maybe just a cheeky tack to come to finally squeeze it across the line. So we're a little bit uncertain there, but you could. This is what makes this such an incredible team sport, is all of those people there on the grinders, 3 pedestals, 6 people working in unison to get one job done. And let's just talk about the fact that this boat, uniquely in this race currently, has 10 people on board. You've got 6 people that you can put on the pumps or the coffee grinders, the pedestals in the middle of the boat. So that means you can dedicate 6 people to be in the engine room. And then you've got 4 other people that you can spread around other jobs on the boat. So that means that you've got a helmsman, you've got one person tailing the sheet, for example, another person on the bow. So that means you can be maneuvering the boat in the moment. You can at absolutely full speed, but then you can also invest people in what's coming up. and so you can be changing gears or preparing a sail change while still sailing the boat at full speed. And I think that is going to be crucial for this boat when they come into the final short legs. Because let's just talk about what's coming up. We've got a relatively simple, well, on the face of it, leg from here to Itajai. Basically, they're going to be on starboard all the way up. Although it's a lot more complicated than that. You've got a little bit of a doldrums crossing, and you've got the Gulf Stream that we'll be talking about in a lot more detail later. And then you've got a transatlantic sprint, and it's astonishing that now in today's modern era of ocean racing, 3,000 miles can be considered a sprint. But then we finally get the real sprints. You've got Cardiff to Gothenburg via the Shetland Islands and the North Scotland, and then also the final little sprint from Gothenburg via Aarhus in Denmark to the finish in The Hague. And so I think those shorter legs is where we're going to see this advantage of more people on board and lots of short leg experience.
Well, all of that is to come. For now, there's only one thing that Turn the Tide on Plastic are thinking about, and they've been thinking about it for days. The finish line here in Itajai, bringing leg 7 to a close. We're expecting Di Cafari to do maybe one more maneuver, maybe a little bit of a turn up on the bow, but the finish line is just in front of this team. 10 sailors at the beginning of the race, considered rookies. Very few of them have the kind of ocean racing experience that normally gets you into a Volvo ocean race team. But under the tutelage of Di Cafari, Liz Wardley, and some other very experienced sailors, this boat has really come of age. They were featuring strongly in the last few legs, but now they get the result that arguably they have been deserving a good few legs back. 4th place for Turn the Tide on Plastic is waiting for them. The final tack is completed. The breeze is finally there to push them across the line. Winding back on the masthead, code 0 onto port tack. The line is right in front of them. Everyone is there to cheer them across the line. Turn the Tide on Plastic is ready to round off leg 7. An unbelievable leg, a leg that no one will be able to forget. The loss of John Fisher, muting the celebrations for everybody, but the accomplishment and the achievement of everybody out on the water. Now it's the turn of Turn the Tide on Plastic to get their moment and their chance to celebrate. We're expecting them to be sailing across the line any minute now. We've got Liz Wardley on the bow, lines coming back. The crew still in the middle of the cockpit. On the grinders, Di Cafari as skipper on the helm for this moment. We can see the red light. We think that's the right-hand side of the line at the moment, and there it is. Across the line for Turn the Tide on Plastic, Di Cafari, Liz Wardley, and the crew. A fantastic effort. Leg 7 comes to a close. Well, Conrad, I mean, we've talked a lot about this. Leg 7 has just felt like a mountain for all of the crews. It has been absolutely unforgiving. Sadly, claiming the life of John Fisher, and it's been touching to see how deeply that's affected, well, all the sailors, but obviously the sailing community as well. But this moment, this achievement, this relief of pulling together as a team, going up against some of the most ferocious conditions that the Volvo Ocean Race has seen for many editions, and to come out on top, I mean, really, this is this is a one of a kind, one of a moment that you're never really going to get a chance to do again.
No, well, you know, the American Indians say that you never step in the same river twice, in the sense that the sea and the river is constantly changing, and that's very much the case here in the Southern Ocean and in the Volvo Ocean Race. That this mix of a team that they've created is unique to this moment, and it was unique to this edition of the race, and it's something really, really special. You can see that in the enthusiasm there, in the embrace between the crew members, and the congratulations and the heartfelt feeling that you can see there on board. And just refer back to John Fisher, and there was a really touching tribute indeed from Di Cafari, who said that he had really felt strongly about her mission with the team, and that he was very generous with spending time and talking with her sailors to help them get on board. You know, you certainly wouldn't see that between Manchester United and Liverpool. You know, you don't, and that's something that's beautiful about our sport as well, is that there's lots of sort of trading of thoughts and opinions and sort of intermingling between teams. Indeed, during the course of this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race, we have seen a couple of examples of sailors from one team sailing competitively on the other, and so really unique.
Well, we're just waiting to hear from Dee Caffari, the skipper of Turn the Tide on Plastic. We've got the helicopter shot at the moment, and Dee has stepped off the helm. Brian Thompson has taken the wheel. The crowd on the shore are waiting, but as you're watching this live with us, beaming it to you from Itajai to race control in Alicante and then out around the world, you can see that Dee Caffari is there on the water, and I believe that Dee Caffari is ready to talk to us for this fantastic moment for this team as they come across the line. Dee, I hope you can hear us. We've got so many people watching this moment for you. Congratulations. We see the excitement. We see the celebrations on board. Dee, just tell us what this moment means to you.
It's just awesome. It's a monster leg, and we've come through and we finished. And we had to work hard for that finish. But it's been like that the whole leg. It's been hard work, and these guys fully deserve the credit they get for coming in 4th place. Awesome. I'm so proud of them.
A great result and a great finish. And as you were saying previously, this team has really felt like a new team for you. It must be such a moment for you to see how far they've come.
Oh, definitely. They're just growing every leg. And we proved it in the last leg, which was lighter winds and flat water. And now we've proved it in a big wind, big waves conditions as well. So these guys can take anything on, and I'm really chuffed, and I back them 100% every time. They've worked hard, and they deserve the rest they're going to get in Brazil.
Well, Dee, we've got the camera rib alongside you at the moment, and we've got everybody watching from that camera online. We've had people who have been watching all the arrivals. It's been an amazing for the fans to see all the crews arriving here in Itajai. I just wonder whether you want to say anything to everybody who's watching online and has been cheering you across the line tonight.
Oh, well, thank you very much for the support. It's felt like we've been out here a long time, but it's really appreciated. We've had a lot of support from fans, and we hope we're doing them proud by getting better and better results. So it's onwards and upwards for Team Turn the Tide, and we're really chuffed to be here. And I'm amazed that everybody's awake in the middle of the night to welcome us in. It's been fantastic.
Dee, thank you so much. I'm not going to postpone you anymore. Get your boat in, get yourself on shore. Welcome to Itajai. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Oh, big smiles, Conrad. Big smiles indeed, and rightly so.
And absolutely rightly so. It's just as we were saying, that, you know, this is very much a proud mum moment for her. She's really brought this team through really tough conditions, and that finish wasn't easy at all. So, you know, they fought all the way to finish. Great job, well done.
Well, jubilation on board Turn the Tide on Plastic as they come across the line. Big smiles on board, not just for skipper Dee Caffari, but every member of this team out in the water and on shore as well. They're going to make their way from the finish line up the river and then to the crowds that are waiting for them on the pontoon. Hopefully we'll get a chance to hear more from Dee Caffari and some of the team as well. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, but we will be back in a few moments when Turn the Tide on Plastic reaches the dock and we can hear more from the crew. See you then.
You can't fight it. It's thunder and lightning. You won't break me. You won't break me.
Welcome back to the live arrival coverage from the finish line in Itajai for leg 7. Turn the tide on plastic, crossed the finish line to finish 4th on this double point Southern Ocean leg. And now they're just a few moments away from getting to the dock. And we've already seen the crowds out in the water in the many boats, welcoming the team as they came across the line. And now you can hear from the audio out there the roar of the crowd on the pontoons and in the race village in Itajai. This boat is receiving a very warm welcome indeed.
Well, they are, and there's a great crowd out there for them at the moment, but the person that will be the most happy to see them coming in is going to be Charles Coudurier.
Now, that's a very good point, because this is something that we've been talking about happening, about the scoreboard. Mafre were at the top, and then in this leg, obviously, Mafre have had the problems with their mainsail. This finish with Turn the Tide on plastic plays very well into the Chinese team's hands.
Exactly, and so this is what we've been waiting for. This is what Charles and his team has been waiting for. Because Turn the Tide on plastic, now finishing this leg, puts them up above, and there's no way for Mafre to come back. So, warm welcome from everybody, but certainly from Charles Coudurier. Di Cafari and her team have done an incredible job, exactly what he wanted, but frankly, it's not about Charles today. This is their moment. They have finished the hardest leg of the Volvo Ocean race, and they can really now arrive on the dock and finally throw the lines to the pontoon. They can soak up this moment.
Liz Wardley on the helm at the back of the boat on Turn the Tide on plastic. And there are the crowds waiting for them. I mean, it was a good reception for all the teams, but there is something special going on right now in the race village in Itajai. Turn the Tide on plastic is getting a huge cheer from the crowds. Francesca Klapcic on the right-hand side of your screen at the moment, along with Bianca Cook and Federico Pinheiro de Mello. And now the reuniting starts. Friends, family, well-wishers, fans, everybody is there. And in a short while, we're going to be able to hear from the sailors. And in the background, I can just see Liz Wardley with the arm strapped up still. There was a question mark whether she broke that arm. I mean, these sailors have been through so much physically, so much emotionally. There's no surprise to see just how much of a relief this is.
Just how much of a relief. But we talked about how Liz Wardley is indispensable. And now I'd like to talk about how the fact that she's indestructible, because we saw that video a couple of days ago of her being strapped up and her forearm essentially being put in caster. And then maybe 36 hours after that, we saw her up the rig again. And I know from experience that it is brutal up there. And so the fact that she didn't sort of tap in anybody else on the shoulder, and that she took responsibility for solving the problems herself was super impressive. But here you can see all of the crew lined up next to the lifelines. The boat looks in great shape, frankly. You know, often after such a brutal leg, you can see Liz is still looking pretty good. You can see stanchions bent or bits of the boat broken or missing. Here, the boat, shiny, beautiful blue, really great shape. Hats off to everybody for that incredible result.
Well, Liz Wardley stepped off the boat. Francesca Klapcic jumped off the boat as well. And there's a lot of activity at the moment on the pontoon. We're just waiting because we're going to be able to hear a few words from Dee and also from the rest of the crew as well, if we're lucky. We know that the team want to get themselves off the dock, but for now, let's listen to what they've got to say.
Even in the wrong way and alone. And what was different this time?
I crossed the Cape Horn with a very special group of people, and I'm very proud of this group of people. 6 people for the very first time, and I was really proud of them, and they survived the Southern Ocean and did a great job.
Eu perguntei para ela, eu disse que ela já atravessou, né, o Cabo Horn sozinha, até na direção contrária, que foi diferente dessa vez. E ela disse que dessa vez foi diferente porque ela atravessou com um grupo muito especial de pessoas, que 6 dessas pessoas cruzaram Horn pela primeira vez, e que para ela isso foi muito especial. As a skipper, you're responsible for the safety of the crew and the boat, and I know that you had some issues on the rig and stuff. And what special measures did you have to take to ensure that you all came well here?
Well, it's about working as a team and having each other's backs, supporting each other. We know the risks involved with the Southern Ocean. That's why we go there. And we do all the training in place and we look after each other. It's heartbreaking when you hear the news of John Fisher and Scallywag, and it emotionally affected all of us. But it made us stronger and determined to make sure this leg was to make him proud. So this one's for Fish.
Eu falei para ela, ela como capitã, ela como a comandante do barco, ela é responsável aí pela segurança de todos. Eu perguntei que medidas especiais ela tomou em relação a isso, que foi uma perna muito difícil. Ela disse que cada um, né, cuida do outro, né, esse grupo aí, toda a tripulação, que quando souberam da notícia do John Fisher, né, realmente é uma notícia muito triste, mas que eles procuraram sempre, né, estar cuidando um do outro, e por isso estão todos aqui em segurança. Ela está feliz com isso. And another question, now you have a few days because the boat will be up, and what are your plans for the next days? We'll stay in Brazil?
Oh yeah, we're going to enjoy Brazil hospitality, and we've been talking of nothing else. Warm welcome from wonderful people, thank you.
Eu perguntei o que ela vai fazer nos próximos dias. Ela disse que vai, claro, aproveitar a hospitalidade brasileira e que está muito feliz de estar aqui no Brasil. Senhoras e senhores, Zika Faren.
Agora vamos conversar com Frederico Melo, que é português, né? Frederico integra essa equipe. Vocês tiveram alguns problemas no barco. O que vocês fizeram para contornar isso? Isso afetou a performance? Conta pra gente como é que vocês fizeram para superar isso e chegar até aqui.
Sim, tivemos um problema no mastro. Uma das peças do mastro começou a desencaixar e reduziu-nos a possibilidade de continuar a velejar com todo o nosso potencial, por isso atrasámos bastante e por isso perdemos o contacto com os líderes, mas felizmente conseguimos resolver a situação e chegar aqui sãos e salvos.
Antes da Volvo Ocean Race, você viajava em barcos menores, velejava, competia. Se comparar com agora, como é que foi cruzar os mares do sul, ali o Cabo Horn, com esse veleiro, junto com essa equipe?
Uma experiência incrível, passámos por tantas emoções, os mares são algo que eu nunca vi na minha vida, mares, ondas gigantes, a nevar ao mesmo tempo, e depois realmente ter a triste notícia do John Fisher abalou toda a gente, portanto foi um misto de emoções, de conquistas, de tristeza, mas pronto, finalmente é bom estar aqui no Brasil.
Tá, e o que você tem a dizer para essa população de Itajai região que está aqui te esperando nessa chegada depois de 20 dias? Você está com uma camiseta do Marcílio Dias, que é um dos times aqui da cidade, do coração de muita gente. Manda um recado para o pessoal aí.
Eu adoro o Brasil, é a primeira vez em Itajai, mas tenho a certeza que vamos ser todos muito bem recebidos, como sempre. Vocês são um povo incrível e são o nosso país irmão e agora é festa.
Quem sabe mais um torcedor do Marcílio aí, do Marinheiro?
Sim, de certeza, seguro.
Bem-vindo.
Obrigado.
Now we're leaving some time for media. Vamos agora deixar a mídia trabalhar um pouco e já teremos a entrega das chaves da cidade aí pelo prefeito Volney Morastone.
Scenes on the dock for Turn the Tide on Plastic. And let's just remind ourselves of what this result means, because Conrad, as we saw, well, in the background of the scoreboard at the moment, Dongfeng Race Team on the hard, and that is our new race leader.
The new race leader, and the advantage is not only getting in early, as we've talked about in the last couple of days, but that means that the boat has been stripped down, that the shore crew has taken over, that the sailing team is on leave, and so that's going to put them in really good stead for the next leg.
Well, Turn the Tide on Plastic, still in 7th place at the moment, but they managed to close up the points deficit between them and Vestas 11th Hour Racing to just 3 points. We have 4 more legs going. We've got another double points leg as well, so we've still got plenty of movement on that scoreboard. But that is Dongfeng Race Team, confirmed now as our new overall race leader, and the boat that they have knocked off, dethroned, is Mafre. The Spanish team had that problem with their mainsail splitting in two. They had to pull into Ushuaia, they had to do repairs, had to suspend racing for 13 hours. And that's just put them behind the weather, and they're really paying for that.
Well, it is, because And this is one of the things that's just absolutely brutal about ocean racing. A small difference at one point in the race can absolutely balloon to become gargantuan later on in the race. They suspended racing for 14 hours and they've lost 5 days.
But for Mafre, they are still sailing and they are still moving. Let's contrast that with two teams that have retired. We know the tragic story of Sun Hunkai Scallywag, but Vestas 11th Hour Racing, they had a dismasting after Cape Horn, arguably when the sea state was actually the roughest that it's been. They pulled into the Falkland Islands, and we can give you a little bit of an update as to the team's latest intentions and where they are right now on their race to get back into the action.
Yeah, so I'm here in Itajai. Charlie and I left the Falklands a few days ago, and we came back here to try to coordinate all the logistics of getting the boat up here as quickly as we can and prepared in time with the new mast to rejoin the race and restart for the next leg.
The rest of the team is still in the Falkland Islands and they're preparing the boat for transit here to Itajai. They've had to convert the ballast tanks to diesel tanks. They've had to re-provision the boat for a different type of passage, which we hope, best case scenario, to be about 10 to 12 days.
They've also been able to secure a jury rig on the island, which will aid in the journey up here, and are getting prepared for the delivery crew to arrive, hopefully later today, to do the handover and start making their way north. Yeah, so the guys actually tried to leave the Falkland Islands a few days ago and motor toward mainland South America. They ran into some mechanical and technical issues which were totally separate from the demasting, which forced them to return to the Falklands, which is where they are currently. And since then they've been using the time to properly prepare, rig up a jury rig, increase the fuel capacity of the boat, and do everything we can to try to make the trip from the Falklands to Itajai as quick and efficient as possible. It's really been a collective team effort to try to get the boat back here, and every little win feels like a small win, and there's still a lot of things that need to go our way in order for it to all to happen, but we're going to keep pushing and keep fighting. It's all we can do.
In our situation, the rig was in multiple pieces. There was a lot of the rig still in the water, thrashing about in a pretty furious sea state, and we were in jeopardy of basically poking a hole in the hull of the boat, which would have been a very, very grave situation. So fortunately, we were able to cut everything away and salvage the hull, which is what we were able to do. It wasn't our first choice, by any means, because we never want to put anything in the ocean. But we set out in this campaign to be the most sustainable team in the race, and we're not going to let this incident stop that. We are going to offset our entire carbon footprint, and this will be added to that. So we're going to work with 11th Hour specifically to make sure that's the case. So we know what it is, and watch this space for how we're going to take care of that.
I mean, this has been a really trying time for our team, and it kind of has been for a while now. We on behalf of Charlie and I and the whole team, we really appreciate all the support that we've received from our sponsors, from the Volvo Ocean Race, friends and family, and really all of our fans and supporters around the world. This team is an incredible group of people, and I think you only really see that when you face adversity, and we've certainly had a lot of adversity in the last couple of months, and the team spirit continues to remain strong. Everybody's still really motivated to get back in the water and try to win this next leg into Newport, and put our best foot forward for the rest of the race. So thanks to all of you for continuing to support us, and we look forward to being back on the water and making you proud.
Vestas 11th Hour Racing just updating us on their progress to get themselves back into the race and rejoin the rest of the fleet in Itajai. But there is still one other boat, Sun Hunkai Scallywag. If you've been following the race, you will know that they have been coming to terms with the loss of John Fisher, their crew member that went overboard and sadly wasn't recovered in the Southern Ocean. The crew retired from racing, headed north to get out of the worst of the conditions before making it safely to Chile. They have said that they are going to get themselves back into the race. It is against the clock. There are a lot of miles between where they are now and the race village in Itajai, but they are on their way and pushing hard. And the loss of John Fisher has affected everybody in the race, sailors, fans, and the wider sailing community. And we'd like to pay you a tribute from Sun Hunkai Scallywag about a sailor who has left a huge hole in the community here at the Volvo Ocean Race and sailing around the world.
I suppose just the experience, you know, sailing in the cold, day after day, the relentlessness of the weather. You know, it's grinding, really grinding, and it you know, makes you think long and hard about some of the things you do in your life and your mental state and everything else. And I think highlight and low light is that, the weather and the conditions. You know, blasting along at 30 knots is magic, you know.
This week claimed a good man in fish. Get back in there. It's that Hong Kong red. Oh, yeah.
He was incredibly happy. He looked incredibly fit, with a big smile on his face. He was just enjoying the experience of a lifetime ambition of sailing around the world in the Volvo Ocean Race. Fish was an amazing guy. He was incredibly patient as a teacher. He was really good with the younger people on board the boat. He would teach them how to do things better, how to do things smarter, how to sort of think ahead of the game. He was also great company.
Happy Valentine's Day, David. With the meringue. Absolutely.
He could talk about sailing, he could talk about anything in the world. And he was also one of the most safety conscious people. He was always thinking about how do we make sure the boat is safer, the crew is safe, the welfare of the people on board. And he was really just the most thorough gentleman I've had the pleasure to sail with.
Hope everything's going well, mate, and hope you have a wonderful time. Happy Valentine's Day to Kirsten, the woman that makes me the man I am, and for supporting me with everything I do. Thank you very much.
I suppose where I grew up and growing up with the love of sailing and watching the Whitbread start, you know, every 4 years out of the Solent. You know, it's one of those things you always dream of doing, and whether you ever get the chance is another thing. You know, if you're lucky enough to get the chance to do a race like this, everyone should grab it. I think, you know, it isn't for everyone, but you should always challenge yourself.